Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to 2CTV, the channel that challenges the mainstream media and the political establishment, from the left-wing nutters to the globalist elite. Let's talk about the globalist elite. Let's talk about the out-of-touch pro-centralization corporatists like Klaus Schwab. In this video, we're going to bring you guys the latest updates from the turmoil inside the World Economic Forum as an organization. Klaus Schwab, the outgoing leader and founder of WEF, is in a bit of trouble. Okay, so there was a story in the Wall Street Journal earlier on about what's happening inside this organization over the last few decades. They've become extremely influential and powerful. It's become a great platform for networking for all the corporatists and all the world leaders. And at the same time, of course, they also come up with new ideas, fresh ideas to shape the world and the future. Now, the interesting thing about this organization is that the media don't really scrutinize them. We know that because, of course, the media are also invited into the tent to enjoy the gravy train. Having said that, there are stories that have been suppressed for a long time. But now that Klaus Schwab is going, they're coming out. Behind Davos, claims of a toxic workplace. Despite its lofty goals, the World Economic Forum has faced numerous accusations of sexual harassment, discrimination against women and black people. So this gets quite interesting when you look at the details. Thanks to Mario posting this from the WSJ, saying employees at the World Economic Forum in Davos, which calls for gender parity and inclusion, of course, accused the founder, Klaus Schwab, and its leadership of discrimination and, of course, harassment against the women and the people of color. During his long career, Klaus Schwab created a poisonous environment for women and, of course, non-white people, firing at least 6 female employees during their pregnancy or just after returning from paternal and maternal leave in general. Other women also reported sexual harassment from top supervisors, including Schwab himself, according to the investigation done by the Wall Street Journal. Now, there will be a lot of people who are going to get into trouble, but some people are asking a very obvious question. What is going to happen next? Elon Musk responded to that post saying, live by the cancel, and of course, die by the cancel. Cancel culture is here. They promoted it, and now they're getting cancelled. So, the issue that we have is Schwab is leaving. Some people are asking a question saying, the timing of it, was that why? Did he know that these stories are coming out? Did they know the rest of the cabal and the minions around Klaus Schwab to do, to limit the damages, essentially, to the reputation of the organization, essentially throw a couple of people under the bus, get Klaus Schwab to just step down and have an honorary position and basically retire, although behind the scenes he will still always be around anyway, because they knew these sort of stories are finally coming out. Now, the next question is, will we get anywhere with these accusations? And I'm not just talking about the harassment stuff, I'm talking about the discrimination stuff. Will these stories continue to be covered by the press, by the media, apart from Wall Street Journal and 2CTV and some other new media outlets? Is it going to be shut down completely? Is it going to go away? Or is this the beginning of the tide that is turning, considering that last conference in Davos was so toxic that a lot of world leaders decided not to go and send representatives instead. So instead of presidents and prime ministers, all of them going, they send out government ministers quietly to go there, right? But what I'm worried about is what comes next. Who comes next? There are, of course, Borgia is one of the main names because he's already president. But let's talk about this man. He was raised politically and ideologically by the likes of Klaus Schwab. Who is he? Some of you already know. Yuval Noah Harari. He's from Israel. He's written a number of very influential books, including Sapiens. Oh yeah, a lot of people have read his books, millions and millions of copies. He's very successful. He is a corporatist, globalist, His type of people have been going around Klaus Schwab by influencing the ideas. So there are a chunk of a very specific type of corporatist people around Klaus Schwab over the last 30, 40 years that pushed for the idea of data as the future of humanity. So Harari essentially predicts that by the 22nd century, Homo sapiens, and as you know, of course, they were former Homo sapiens, but the current versions of humans will no longer be the dominant force on this planet. And he's excited about it. His main thing is data, and his religion is essentially dataism, as he calls it. And he's also very much concerned about politicians and democracy. These people are control freaks, people like Harari, people like Klaus Schwab, and they believe that they are the ones, this is basically they have God complex. They are the ones smart enough to save us from ourselves. He calls, he's got this thing called the useless class that he's come up with. The useless class is a threat to community peace, according to Harari. Using this ideology, this worldview, he's pushing for universal basic income. And he said the useless class, which will be a lot of humans in the future because data and AI and everything else will take over. And they will be also new citizens of the world. The useless class will have to be dealt with. And the way he sees, the way you can deal with them is by distracting them with video games and drugs and entertainment. And in return, you give them a universal basic income. So they are not complaining, they are not revolting, but they're also not really being a complete burden because you'll be taxing everybody else to pay for the useless class. Firstly, the fact that they have this sort of language, this sort of insulting language about people on this planet, that also says a lot about how these people think. Now, Harari, when he was obviously growing up in Israel, with a more of a right-wing background, or more conservative-leaning background, when he decided to go to academia and best universities in the world and become a more pseudo-intellectual academic, these people are now against nationhood and nation-states. They don't understand that humanity, by default, is still tribal. If you want your Star Trek fantasy world where you have one human race, of course we are all one human race, but the way they see human race as just numbers, doesn't matter where you are, we'll treat you the same way, and you have to treat each other the same way. That Star Trek fantasy world, they are pushing it. Instead of just let it gradually, naturally, if we're going to go that way, let's just let it happen automatically. But no, they want to push for no borders, no flags, one leadership of the world, but they also claim to be the defenders of democracy, democratic systems, and capitalism. They are not doing any favors for democracies. They are not doing any favors to actual free market capitalism because they are not true free marketeers. They are corporatists. Corporatists in a sense that they want corporations, and not necessarily one or two of them, the concept of corporations, by using cooperation amongst each other, for example, going to Davos and other avenues as well, for them not just to have a say in terms of governance of this planet, but also to be represented on behalf of people. Because they say, just like MPs and senators and other politicians, we have constituents, they're called customers and clients. So we will be representing them. We know what they think, we know what to do and how to solve problems. Now, one by one, of course, a business or a businessman could come up with an innovative product to solve a problem, and it will sell it for a price and people will pay for it, and a problem is fixed. That's called free market capitalism. That's fine. But because of that, the concept being successful, these idiots think that they can basically just have the same system on steroid and have people who are corporatists and globalists to just sitting around the room, come up with ideas to fix all the problems without realizing there will be consequences. And they will be protecting themselves. They are fine. So most of the problems with these guys, and a lot of people say, oh, they're greedy, for example, or they're psychos. That's not necessarily the only problem. The biggest issue is that they have God complex. People like Bill Gates also the same way. They have God complex. And they believe that only they are smart enough to fix the problems of the world. Same problem that people like Lenin had. And of course, using his henchman and his thug, Stalin, to promote it. But then when Stalin became powerful, he said, I'm just going to go full-on, all-out tyrant, and no one can stop this. I'm not claiming that Harari or even Bill Gates will definitely do the same thing as Stalin. They don't have to anymore, because what they have, they literally call us the useless class. And the whole point of it is, back in the day, someone like Chairman Mao or Stalin had to force people, put a gun to their head saying, obey. Now, he literally says it in his own books as well. Read the books, by the way. They are fascinating stuff. Sapien, definitely, and all the others. It's quite, it gets quite dark. But it's a worldview, let's just say. They don't have to do what Stalin or Chairman Mao did, because as he calls us, the useless class, humans, they are already getting us to obey. I'm not talking about me or you guys, but a lot of people, and maybe at times us as well. They get us to follow the rules by making us think that it was our idea. And the rest of the time, they distract us. Perfect example was 2020 lockdown. The first lockdown, second lockdown, third lockdown, and depending on the country, fourth lockdown. They created a situation where the media and everybody else scared people up to a point where after the first lockdown, a lot of countries, a lot of our societies, it was now at that point, the people, peer pressure, putting pressure on the leadership, prime ministers and presidents, to do more lockdowns. They made the people think it was their idea. Now, of course, there were a lot of people who were more self-aware and they were awake, not woke, awake. And they were questioning things. But a lot of other people, they turn into sheep. The rest of the time, the fact that if you go out there on the streets and ask people questions about, do you know the World Economic Forum? Or do you even know who the leader of the opposition is right now? They don't know. It's because they are distracting us with materialism and everything else. And, entertainment and everything. I'm not saying these are bad things. I'm just saying that they've been used more like as addictive drugs on us. And of course, the daily problems that you have to go to work for a long time, and then once you come home, you have to worry about paying your bills. People don't ask questions. People don't have time to be thinkers, to ask the relevant questions about the leadership and the governance of this planet. First super chat from the US. Is it me, or does it look like the globalists are cleaning house given the events from the past week? And it's not necessarily about the past week or what's going on in America or Biden. It's just the wider stuff that's happening. The rise of new media and, of course, others exposing a lot of issues that they have to do control damage, and they have to sometimes do self-leaking, for example, or throw some people under the bus. Because until now, the way they've essentially managed to suppress information and avoid scrutiny, was simply by not really getting the media, who are also in the same club, to be against them. So the media people, the CEOs of CNN and all the other organizations, also get invited to go to Davos. Great networking place. And you get a lot of nice food. And of course, you'll be part of a club. So why would you ask questions? Rowan from Canada says that the WF is run by sick humans. Did Soros elect them? They don't even get elected. That's the whole point. And it's not really just about George Soros. And this is the whole thing. And one thing they've done over the last few decades is feeding and planting seeds in people's heads. So Hollywood, Disney, Marvel, DC Universe, all these things, created scenarios where, I'm not saying I'm like some sort of like tinfoil hat kind of conspiracy theory that they had meetings, but it's just a mentality that's been spread around. Because of the way movies and TV shows painted villains and Bond villains and all that, they want you to basically focus on one or two people. In case something goes wrong, they could get rid of them, throw them under the bus. And they were like, yes, Klaus Schwab is gone, George Soros is gone. Everything's fine now. Tony Blair's gone, for example. It's not about these people. It's not about one or two of them. It's not about This comment makes George Soros sound like he's the master. He's above Klaus Schwab, and he basically chose Klaus Schwab. It's not even about that. It's a poison. It's a virus that's been infecting these type of people for the past 100 years, almost 100 years. And there are many other George Soroses and Klaus Schwabs that we don't even know about because they're behind the scenes. They are faceless and nameless. Again, not in some sort of Illuminati lizard way, in a very obvious corporatist centralization way. The vested interest. So it's not even about Klaus Schwab or Tony Blair. They're all puppets of each other, essentially, like it's some sort of chain. Super chat from listener saying, wait until he meets Angela Rayner. Oh, yeah, I don't think he would want to do anything with that. L says that you are right. It was said 20 years back and now it's happening. So no tinfoil hats insult matters now. The interesting thing is, even criticizing the World Economic Forum on the surface, very objective, logical way, literally, and as in criticizing it based on what they say publicly, the website, the conference, the booklets, and what they promote. Criticizing that, just criticizing it, saying, I don't like it, you get replies on social media from the pundits, from the mainstream, people like Alistair Campbell, people like Tony Blair, Keir Starmer. They will all call you conspiracy theorist. They shut you down completely. It's the same thing when Christopher Hitchens warned about the creation of the word Islamophobia when he was alive. About 15 years ago, he said, there's a word that's coming up now, and they're going to be using it to shut down debate. The same thing with the word racist, for example, or fascist, or whatever. Before you even finish your sentence, they say, you are that. So your credibility is gone, basically. That's how they do it, all the time. Now, there will definitely be conspiracy theories about the organization or other things in general, but let the person finish the sentence and then decide. They don't even want you to ask questions. And it's not even ask questions, because even when you say ask questions, it sounds like, you want to find a flaw. No, just criticizing what they've already said themselves, you're not allowed. Well, not that you're banned, but it's a taboo. Leopard Girl says, you will never hear the names of the people who are really ruling the world. So if you know a name, then that's a puppet, just like the US president. Exactly. If you know the name, then they're just the front, they're just the face. Oh, yeah. The CIA created the term conspiracy theorist to discredit those questioning the JFK thing. We now know the CIA killed JFK. A lot of these things were, of course, about again, I've been saying this quite recently, war of the words. And it's at times it's been the political left and then the establishment, even back in the day when you had the feudalism, until now, the communists, and now what we call them. I would like to call these guys, because there's some people who say, at the end of the day, Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, this is basically communism. It's not necessarily communism. It's not even close to communism. The only similarity between communism and what these guys are doing, the corporatists, the globalists, is the centralization of power. But the centralization of power didn't exist just with the communists. We had it towards the end of the Roman Empire. I mean, most of the Roman Empire, but especially towards the end of the Roman Empire, before Karl Marx was even born. That system was almost so centralized that it was basically like the result was like communism, or what we're now seeing with what these guys want, the more centralized on a global level. The best way I would like to call these guys is that they are statists, but you can't really. They're not necessarily statists in a traditional way. Statist as in somebody who's basically in favor of the state ruling over your life, compared to someone who's pro-freedom. These people are pro-centralization. They are centralized control freaks. They want to centralize power. Now, how do you fight back? First, you have to go out there and on the street and explain to people what I just said. Good luck with that. They don't teach any of this in schools, in universities. They don't want you to think. They would rather if you call them communists, because that word, the attack when you call these guys communists, is not really that effective, and they're actually fine with it. They are happy if you call them communists, because the rest of the people, they basically told them, oh yeah, this idiot just calling me a communist. I'm not. And people are like, okay, yeah, you're not. They want you to call them communist. But it's basically centralization. It's worse than that. It's God mentality. It's God complex. They want to be the gods. And literally, Harari is one of the people who's been saying it. He's the future of the World Economic Forum. He's the future of influence. Well, even presently he is. A random kid coming from Israel, raised by a more conservative leaning family, turn into this. What happened along the way? You know, a lot of childhood issues, of course, but the influence of people around you. That's how they get you. This man is fascinating, but problematic. His solutions to the problems of the future could be dangerous, whether he knows it or not. That's the point. He sees dataism, based on data, as the new religion, as the future, and how in the future, next century, we're no longer going to be humans, the only citizens with rights on this planet. Because AI and robots, just like how fictional movies and books warned us, will be basically equal. Crazy. Do we have any other super chat? Yes, we do. Ron says, Yuri Bezmenov predictions are now reality. Yes, again, Yuri's name comes up every now and then on this channel. If you haven't, go check it out on YouTube. Just type his name. Obviously, from a more common, like Russian background, they're dealing with the Soviet. The guy literally said decades ago what is happening now, especially with the division, with the divide and conquer, woke culture, and all this. And infighting amongst the Western societies, that's exactly what they wanted. Aaron says alphabet agencies have always controlled politics. But it's not really just about, I agree, but it's not just about politics. It went beyond that. It's gone towards, it used to be just to control politicians, in a democratic systems. But it's now about governing over humanity, all of us. Anyway, so that's the latest update from the World Economic Forum, and of course Klaus, Uncle Klaus, who's in trouble now. Just a big shout out again. I know I've been repeating myself, but I'm excited because we've just launched it. The 2CTV Plus's first original and exclusive documentary, Britain's Multiculturalism Myth, is now up on the website 2c.tv. The link is in the description. Please join, support independent media, and actually enjoy the documentary. We worked really hard on this to make sure that we actually create a content that could be sustainable for the future as well. Hopefully, we could change the course of history, but you never know what's going to happen. There's one final person, Galloway Rider says, am I banned yet, Maya? Why would you be banned? What have you done? Do you want to be banned? Anyway, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.